on with you, brother? How you doing?
No, good. Just doing house stuff today.
Man, how's the weather treating you down there?
Same thing for last week. Nothing but rain.
You been seeing any flood your way, brother?
Any what?
Any flooding?
Uh, no, I actually not in Lexington, or at least not in our part of Lexington. Where my wife's family lives in Frankfort. There's been some, I guess, on the Kentucky River. But I don't even think. Of course, we didn't go down there, but like we live close to like South Elkhorn, one of its shoots, which goes in the Kentucky River, and I don't know if it's even flooded. So I assume it is, but I don't know.
Man, what was your first initial reaction after the Tennessee game, brother?
I don't know. I guess I was a little shocked because of that it never really was a game, but at the same time, I mean, if you look at the first two games that we played them, it was what was it? We had the first time we played them, we beat them without Lamont, and then we only had Andrew for a minute. The second time we played them, we didn't have Jackson. And this time we didn't have Jackson, but at least we knew who we had. And I don't know. I've heard two different things. There's always that old adage: it's hard to beat a team three times in 1 year. But then somebody shared with me a stat that said actually about 75% of the time you do beat a team three times. If you play a team three times and you beat them twice, you do beat them the third time. So I don't know if that's true or not. So, but
Oh, really?
I wasn't
70.
shocked. I wasn't shocked that we lost. I was shocked that I was kind of surprised that we lost so easily. But at the same time, I definitely, they owed us one, and they've been talking trash for a week anyway that they owed us one. You know, so and also I didn't like the idea like when I guess they were talking their smack, then like Ansley and who was it, Amari or something? It was more Ansley. Ansley's response was like because they were just talking about how the first couple times we played them, that wasn't the real Kentucky team, and that was the real Tennessee team that they played. And Ansley's remark I think was, "Oh, that's cute," and I was like, "Dude, just hush. Don't let them talk their trash. You don't need to talk any. Just kind of let the scoreboard talk trash."
JD, what was your first initial reaction after that Tennessee game?
Man, I was up there. I went to the game. I spent a boatload of money on tickets, and man, to be honest, I knew we were beat the first. Like, it seemed
You would
like,
have had to have JD because I saw the ticket prices and they were outrageous.
well,
I mean, floor seats. Not that I would have bought floor seats, but a guy I worked for to take his family of five, and he would have bought floor seats. It would have been $18,000.
oh
That's
my God.
just outrageous.
Well, the scary thing about my deal is I haven't got the invoice just yet, so I'm kind of dreading that. But I took my mom and dad, and my wife. We went up there, and my father-in-law came over to watch our son in the hotel. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I told my dad about the second possession. I'm like, we're beat. We just
Oh,
didn't look
really?
like we were. I was concerned with the first 5 minutes into the game, and then we just kind of kept digging a hole. And I'm like, are we ever
Yeah,
gonna get that spurt? And then the halftime hit, and I sat behind a couple of Purdue fans, and they're
yeah,
like, man, when you gonna kickstart? I'm like, hopefully the start of this half, and then
yeah,
we just kept digging the hole deeper, and it's like, damn it. And Tennessee, to be honest, Tennessee could do no wrong. Every
yeah.
rebound went their way. They didn't have to fight for it.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
one of
I
those
mean,
games.
and that's the thing. When you get to the NCAA tournament, you gotta win 6 games to win it all. You want to play in 6 games, obviously. One of those 6 games, ball's not going to bounce your way. You're not going to get the baskets. They're not going to fall in as freely as we've seen them fall for us most of the year. But you just got to overcome it. And I don't know that having Jackson would have made the difference between a win and a loss. I think having Jackson would have made a big difference, though. But I don't even know like how many times, and I've asked so many analytic guys this year, like, is there some sort of analytic that takes like, okay, when a team starts out a year, here's their start or here's their lineup, whether it's their starting lineup or their roster, and then how much of that original roster actually plays and the total minutes available for them to play, and let's say they play 40 games, how many of them actually play in those games? Even if you take the starting lineup, because that's really where we got hurt. It wasn't that our
Hmm.
our substitutes or our reserves got hurt. It was that Kerr got hurt, who wasn't a reserve, but Lamont gets hurt, Andrew gets hurt, Jackson gets hurt. I mean, I feel like I'm being a homer if I say we just seemed cursed this year because we could not stay healthy. But I don't know. I want an analytic that says, okay, here's where we rank as opposed to all the other teams who had injuries as well. Because I know other teams had injuries. I just don't know that anyone had the kind of injuries we had this year. So that was not an excuse, because even with those injuries, we found ways to win games. But it's just frustrating to think of, what if we had everybody healthy all year or most of the year?
I would
Hey,
say
Ken,
we're playing
go ahead.
tonight. Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, if we had everybody, if I firmly believe if we'd have had a full team this year, we'd be playing tonight. I mean, I think the team was tough. I
Well,
love the way we played together, and
we've
no,
beaten.
it's just like, man, when we beat, who was it? It was it Gonzaga? Man, I just felt good about the team. I'm like, man, I love the players that we could,
Yeah.
we've got a few
JD,
shooters, but
two
then
of
we
the
got
teams,
started getting hurt.
two of the teams
Man,
playing tonight, we beat.
I know it's crazy.
I
Crazy.
mean, it's just, it's like, man, we were so close, and that's the thing is I don't think, even going back to the '96 team, which what wasn't that close. I mean, it's a razor's edge between being in the Final Four and winning the Final Four and not. I mean, you can have a great team that plays well all year. I mean, I honestly don't think. Of course, this maybe I don't hope, because I don't hope, but I mean, I don't think Duke's getting past Houston tonight.
No
Because
way.
I
I
think
agree.
Houston is just, and again, I know part of this is my biases, but I don't hate Duke the way most UK fans hate Duke. I just don't think. I think Houston's defense is just too physical and too. I had my assistant basketball coach in high school texted me watching the Houston Elite Eight game, and say this is a group of men playing defense, as opposed to what we played most of the year, which was, we learned how to play defense, but we weren't really playing defense at the beginning of the year. He said Houston just, I mean, they just look like a different team, and I'm just kind of hoping that's Duke. If we can beat Duke, and granted it was early in the year and everybody gets better, but if we can beat Duke at the beginning of the year, surely Houston can beat them tonight.
Surely.
Hey, Kendrick, what's your thoughts on the way the season ended and the Kentucky team as a whole, Kendrick? Because you got to travel and follow them that whole NCAA tournament this year.
I mean, I think they were a good team. I think once the injuries hit, they became wildly inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, when I was picking my bracket, it was hard to pick what Kentucky was going to do, because they would play great one game and the next game not so much. And so I wasn't confident in having them make a run, because I was like, they're not going to play 4 good games in a row. But that being said, the injuries were huge for them, and it's got to be frustrating when you're a Kentucky fan. You look up and you see 2 teams that you beat in the Final Four. I related to Louisville in 2014 when UConn wins the national championship, and U of L beat that team 3 times that year. And so I can see the frustration, but I mean, it's still, regardless, I look at it like this year one under Mark Pope that gets to a Sweet 16. And so I mean, Cal got to the Elite Eight. He got one more game than Pope did in his first year, and so I'd be super excited about the future of the Kentucky program right now. They're a good team. They're a great bunch of guys. I hope Otega Oweh comes back. I'm pretty sure he will.
So let me ask y'all a question, because my wife, we were out doing some shopping earlier, and she said she saw something on Twitter that Oweh was leaving. Is that, and you bring it up, is that a question?
People's social media, people just put stuff out there and see what sticks. I haven't heard that he's going to leave. From what I could tell, just from what little interaction I had with him, which mainly just was through the tournament.
Yeah.
If he leaves, it's going to be to the NBA. He's not going to leave Kentucky to go to another college.
Okay. All right. That makes me feel better, because she said she's now she may have just mixed up faces, but she said she saw. This is what she told me. We were at Home Depot, and I about flipped out, because I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said that she saw he was in the portal and going to UConn, and I'm like,
God, please no.
First of all, there's been no announcement that he's in the portal. He's not even announced he's in the portal.
Right.
And if he goes to UConn, then I've about had it. But you know what? It's just Anthony Epps made a tweet about it. It was about, I guess, a kid that we lost to Michigan or something on the portal. And Anthony Epps tweeted about it, said, "Look, this is what it is. This is the way college basketball is now." And as much as people like me fought for this, for the NIL, for these kids to have the power of their name, image, and likeness, it's still kind of it's one of those things where I don't care, I don't mind, I want it, I want them to have it, but this transfer portal stuff where they go every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to see. Okay, because first of all, let me say this: the NCAA caused both these problems because they didn't fix it, and they had state legislatures fix it for them in a way that the NCAA might have fixed it with a little more rules intact. When you got state legislatures doing it, because the NCAA wouldn't do it, so it's their fault. But I feel like we got to get the portal under control where you can't do it every year. You can have one free transfer, and then you got to go, okay, now I got to sit out a year. There's got to be some punishment, I think, for that second transfer in 2 years. It's not like, because when we had what was Trey's name? And I'm bad at this. I played for us a couple of years ago under Cal's last year. Trey
Lance.
I don't know.
Is it Lance?
No,
Trey
I
Lance.
don't even know what I'm thinking about. But it was like we were his 15. We were his 15. And I'm like, I just don't know how this works. And now, granted, it's a lot of it had to do with COVID, I guess, but still, it's like, I don't know if you're a head coach like with Mark is right now, where he has worked the high school kids, and now literally the day after we lose Tennessee, and I figured this would happen because of just his work ethic, but he's not taking vacation. He's not taking time off. He's got to hit the portal and start working these kids. So, I mean, I don't know when these coaches get a day off. And the cool thing is, I think we landed a kid today from Pittsburgh, right? That was announced. Mm-hmm. So we got this kid out of Tulane. We got this kid out of Pittsburgh. Both of them, I think the kid out of Tulane's a 2 or a 3. The kid out of Pitt's a 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think all right, now we just got to be worried about our bigs. But I don't know. It's just it's so chaotic now, where it used to be, okay, season's over, take a deep breath, and let's see what we got coming in next year's freshmen. And no, we got to see who are we going to get to come in as seniors and juniors.
All right. I agree with you, Cameron. I think they should get one free transfer. If a coach leaves, they should be able to go.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
And then after that, they should lose a year of eligibility.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Did they used to lose a year of eligibility, or was it you had to sit out a year, but you still had that rule that you had 5 years to complete 4 once you started?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
So you would lose a year of eligibility in some sense, I think.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea of it's a free for all. And right now it's a free for all.
Right.
And again, if the NCAA had put their foot down and said, okay, we're taking all the money, we're not giving the kids any money, let's make this more equitable and fair to everybody, including the coaches and the players, and stop this nonsense. Well, the kids are getting an education, so it's all fine and good. It's garbage. And the coaches can go anywhere as long as someone buys them out. They can tell your mom and dad, hey, I'm going to be here for you for the next 4 years. I'm going to take care of your kid. And then the coach gets a better offer and he's gone, but the kid's stuck there one way or the other without having to, even if you can transfer, sit out a year. That was all nonsense. And NCAA refused to fix it. So the state legislatures had to come in and fix it. And now I'll admit, it's somewhat of a mess because the NCAA just wouldn't fix it. And it just drives me absolutely mad, is that they had a chance. The tide was turning against them, including the media, but they wouldn't fix it. And now here we are.
Speaking of high school, we have the head coach of the team that won the state championship this year in Kentucky, Mr. Steve Page of Great Crossings. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Coach?
Good. Congratulations.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Corey, I got to tell you. So I called Coach, I called 3 of your all's games at Sweet 16. And by the time we got to the semifinals, it was kind of a joke on the broadcast team of, can we get Malachi to talk about himself? And we couldn't. I mean, we set him up brilliantly every time. We're like, okay. I mean, we tried. I mean, blatantly tried. Malachi, talk about your game, and all he wants to do is talk about his teammates. How do you? I mean, you have to feel lucky to have coached a kid like that.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You know, somebody with as many accolades as he's gotten, and you know, all the I guess the kids' word, all the flowers that he gets, and you know, it is amazing that he remained a team guy. We've tried to preach that from day one. So you know, not to boast, but I think we're, you know, us, the way we do our program is a little bit responsible for that, because that's how we've been, you know, from day one of the program. And he's obviously bought into that it's about the, you know, obviously we don't have names on the back of our jerseys in high school, but we talk all the time about it's what's on the front of that jersey, not, you know, not the back. That good things will happen to the back of the jersey if good things are happening to the team on the front. So yeah, it's pretty cool though.
Hey, Coach, I want to start, and then everybody else can follow suit if they choose to. What exactly is University of Kentucky getting with Malachi?
Yeah, I mean, just even that point we talked about. I mean, I think I kind of caught the back end of that conversation. Kids going from place to place, and place to place, and I get it. You got to worry about yourself. I'm not saying that, but I think you're getting a kid that's going to be laser focused about realizing that what the front of that jersey represents. He's always wanted to play at Kentucky, so so getting that opportunity while he could have chosen, anywhere, it means a lot to him to have that front of the, what's on the front of the jersey. I may be totally inaccurate in a year or so, but I don't think he's going to be a kid, no matter if he stays at Kentucky 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. I would be shocked unless they pushed him that way. I don't think he's going to be a kid that you're going to see putting his name in a portal. Anytime during that process. He's a very loyal kid. With us, he could have gone to any prep school he wanted, but he chose to, stay with us and for what happened last Saturday night. That was the main reason, he stayed with us, is he wanted to win a state title. Yeah, he wanted to win. He wanted to be on the McDonald's team that he played this past Tuesday. He wanted to be in the Hoop Summit that he's playing next week. Wanted to win Mr. Basketball, but his number one goal was what happened last week. So I think that's first and foremost. And then obviously on the court, I'd say of the two centers that they had this year, he's going to most closely resemble, Amari Williams. He passes the ball really well. I think he'll fit in perfectly. In that respect, he might. I don't know if next year, but I think he's going to have a better offensive game than Amari, in terms of where a lot of teams, especially at the end of the year, it seems they were playing Kentucky a little bit, where they just said, Amari, you got to beat us. We're not going to let we're going to do our best not to let other people and let their motion offense kind of beat them. And I think hopefully he develops that next year. He's got a nice offensive game, but I think he'll be the type that'll flourish in those one-on-one situations as he gets a little bit older, and hopefully you'll see that next year. But and then we'll see how it translates. Obviously, it's a little bit easier in a high school game at 7'1" against 6-footers and 6'2", 6'4" kids. But he's so good defensively around the rim. Obviously he's not going to block the amount of shots he blocked in high school.
Yeah.
I do think he'll change some things, for him. And I think he'll really flourish after about 2 months in a college strength program. He'll put 25 pounds on, and I don't even think you'll notice that he put those 25 pounds on. So they kind of gave us a program to, Coach Towner gave us a program to work on, but he gave us 3 days a week. He didn't get in the gym 3 days a week, didn't have time, to do so. But when he's really pushed, when he gets on campus, that's gonna be, to me, one of the biggest things that's really gonna help his game.
Coach, what's this say? Because we had 3 McDonald's All-Americans from the state of Kentucky. None of them went off to prep schools to go do. They stayed at their schools. How big is that for basketball for the state? The talent is staying in state, not going off to prep schools.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you did have a couple kids that are, obviously Jasper going to Kentucky as well, that did do that route, and Taylor Kenny did that route. But it's really good. I think that he was able to kind of meet all of his goals and stay, where he's been all of his life. So I do think that that's a good message for Kentucky basketball, that high school basketball, that you can reach your goals by still staying true to yourself and staying, where you want. I understand the push and the amount of money that gets thrown around. He had some money thrown at him that, he left on the table, but I do think it says a lot. I think it'd be real interesting to see, what Taylor Kenny does next year, whether he comes back to Kentucky to play high school basketball.
JD, Cameron, y'all got anything
Oh,
for Coach?
I got plenty, but I feel like
I
I'm
got
monopolizing
something
most
too.
of this
Yeah.
already. So JD, go ahead, bud.
Hey, what's up, Steve? Hey, congrats on the state championship, man. I can't tell you how great it is to hear the story of Malachi. When I grew up in Taylorsville, which is
Oh yeah, we played you guys last year in the
Yeah.
first round. Yep.
Spencer County, and we made the Sweet 16 for the first time in our school history.
It's already been a year. Wow.
It has, yeah. And I remember my dad calling me and saying, "Well, we drew the best team in the state the first game." I'm like, "Well, of course we did." So I drove up. I live in Nashville, so I drove up
Yep.
and went to Lexington to rep that day. And of course, Malachi, we actually played you a great game the first half.
Yeah.
If you
Yep.
remember.
I think it was tied going to the fourth quarter,
It,
actually.
it was,
Yep.
yeah. And I've kind of followed Malachi through that from that point through all summer, of course, getting all the accolades and stuff. How much has he improved from last year's state tournament game that I watched in person to
Yep.
to winning state this year? How much did he grow any? Did he put on pound? Because we're really really looking forward to him helping us change some things in Kentucky and see him succeed. So how much did he improve over the course
Yeah,
of
I
the year?
mean, as far as weight, he did, I think maybe put on 5 or 10 pounds. But his biggest growth, he obviously scored about 5 or 6 points a game more than he had in previous years. I think all of his stats, honestly, improved. But he did a better job of taking advantage in the low post. Sometimes he was too quick to pass the ball, where he didn't take advantage of those one-on-one opportunities. He didn't get a lot of them, but we try to tell him anytime that they don't send a double, man, go score. So I think that was one of the biggest reasons he got those additional points. And then I think one thing that you just haven't seen, because it's tough to let a 7'1" kid stand out at the 3-point line and run a lot of pick and pops with
I
him.
saw him do it first round, Coach.
Yeah.
And I was mad at you because you even said, no, we don't want him to do it much. I'm like, after that first one, he nailed. I was like, why? Let him sit there and shoot all day.
Yeah, it's the only one he took of the whole tournament. But then you saw the McDonald's games; he drilled one from the from the corner. So he has the ability in his stroke. We do a drill in practice where you have to make 3 on your first time around, 5 spots. If it takes you 3 shots or 10 shots, and then 2 in a row on the way back, and then you got to make 5 in a row, moving spot to spot to spot. So it's a minimum of 30 makes. We give them 4 minutes because we're not like college where we got a bunch of managers running around that can rebound and get them shots quickly. So we give them 4 minutes. But long story short, the last 2 times his senior year, last 2 times we did that drill, he made it, and he had never made it, up to that point. And it's all 3-point shots. So, I think that shows a little bit about where his shooting, prowess can, I think you're going to see a kid that's going to shoot at a good clip. As he gets to college, he's going to shoot a lot more of those shots, and he's going to be in an offense that's going to allow him to take those shots.
Well, I'm just glad he didn't. That 1-3 he hit in the Sweet 16. What I loved about it, he didn't even hesitate. He didn't even think. He didn't even look over at you like side eye you like, can I? It was like he caught it and shot it. And I thought I'd see, because I think that was second round game. So
it made it 9-2 in the first game. So it was early.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I figured I'd see a lot more of that, but I don't think he got up another or even attempted another 3.
No, I think he took 11. I think he took 11 on the season. I think he went 3 for 11, if I'm not mistaken.
So then let me take that a step further from JD's question. What do you think he needs to improve on the most between, well, let's say the summer? Because the one thing I know is, and I don't know what he's doing right now. I hope he's in the gym. But I know he needs some time off. But it's like I wanted to grab him at one point after the championship game, and he was celebrating. I wanted to go up and say, "All right, take a couple of days. I know I'm not your coach, and you answer to them, but take a couple of days off and then get your rear end back in the gymnasium." But what do you think he needs to improve on the most between, let's just say in the next, I don't know, I guess they'll start some sort of practice back in maybe August, September. But from now till then, what can Malachi work on the most to improve that'll help him next year?
Yeah, well, to your point of time off, he actually left Georgetown at 5 a.m. the next morning to go and was on an 8 a.m. flight out of Cincinnati and was in a McDonald's game for three days. And he leaves early Tuesday morning for the Nike Hoop Summit through next Saturday. So he's probably not doing anything as I speak, but he's not taking off. But I think the biggest thing he's got, I could never get him to consistently work on his little baby hook. And I think that's going to be one thing at 7'1", that's going to be an unblockable shot for him.
Yeah.
that I think he's got to, he's just going to have to commit to wanting to do it. I don't know why. We used to laugh when he did it in practice and almost give him a standing ovation because, it was tough sometimes to get him to do that. And it's an unguardable shot. So I think he's going, and he knows he's got to put that in his game, but I think that's going to be this one shot that could take him a long way in his game. I mean, just again, back to what I was talking about off the dribble, you think of the way they guarded Amari Williams, that's kind of the shot he got a lot, was that little baby hook or push shot that he kind of took. And I think he'll get that where he get to a spot off the bounce and backing guys down, and then that 6 to 7 foot shot. He'll have to improve his. Again, back to our drills. He has improved his shooting, but he's still got work to do on his shooting. He'll have to improve his physicality, but I think that'll come with his weight. He sometimes could get pushed off the block. In some games, and maybe not post deep enough, but. I think that's going to come with just his weight getting a little lower. One of the things when he first, I think it was his unofficial visit that I went before he even committed, that Coach Pope was really wanting him to do was get a little lower defensively. So to be able to, because he's going to have to guard quicker kids and with us, he can kind of catch them from behind. Those guards, even if they beat him off the dribble, he won't be able to do that at the college level. So that was kind of Coach Towner's strength flexibility program was working more on his flexibility, so he could sit down and guard a little bit more, for them. So those are probably a couple of the areas.
All right, I'm gonna do one more round of questions with Coach. I'll go first, and then Cam, you can go second if you'd like to, because you got to get soon. Yeah. Coach, what do you think Pope did that sold him and UK to Malachi? Do you think it's just a boyhood dream being from the state to play for Kentucky? What do you think won Malachi for Pope and the university?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being from Kentucky, he wanted to play for Kentucky, but I think when Coach Pope got here, I think he pursued Malachi, if that made sense. He made him, a priority, explained to him, how good he was at coaching big kids, explained to him his offense, just made him feel wanted. Not that Coach Cal didn't. Coach Cal offered him, but I think it was, and I don't want to speak for Malachi here, but I think it was almost like it was, he had to offer him because he's the best player in Kentucky, where I think Coach Pope, Malachi told me the day he committed, Coach Pope took him in an empty rubber arena right at center court and just kind of said, look at this, who wouldn't want to be here? And it was kind of his, his final sale. But the conversations I was in with the staff, I think they just wanted him. They just pursued him, told him where he could fit in. And I think for him, just getting that, being wanted and knowing that his skill set would kind of fit right in at Kentucky. And then, again, being a Kentucky kid, I think it just putting that puzzle all together.
I can kind of add to that the way Mark pursued him. I was at a practice with he and Jasper. Malachi and Jasper were both there. Neither of them had committed yet. I'm trying to think. It may have been the first practice I was at, and so Mark invited me up to do the kind of the post game or the post practice, huddle, and invited Malachi and Jasper up too. And I didn't know who Jasper was. Ashamedly, I knew who Malachi was because I'd seen him in last year's Sweet 16, but I didn't know who Jasper was. I just thought, I don't know, his little brother. I had no idea, and it's so bad. And I apologize, Jasper, and his too, especially since I know his brother his uncle so well. But he said that, so they're standing there and we've already, they broke the huddle and I'm saying goodbye to Mark, and Mark just got Jasper and Malachi right there. And he turns to me and says, "Will you talk to them?" And I'm like, "About what?" he said, "About committing. Let's go. Let's do it today." And I'm like, "Oh, well, if you give me some prep time, I could have come up with something to say, but this is like right on the spot." So, I mean, it was like, he immediately, like, he wanted commitments from both of them. And it was like, I just when you said he pursued him where Cal offered him, that just registered in my mind. Like, oh yeah, no, he pursued them that day in practice. It was like, yeah. I want you guys here. Just one quick question for me, Coach, and it's more of it's more of a comment, but maybe you can add something to it. One thing I noticed during Sweet 16 that I loved, but also think he needs to work on, is I noticed during the game he didn't go after during Sweet 16. He didn't try to block every shot. He picked his moments most of the time, but there was also those moments where he went after unblockable balls, and that put him in a position where he couldn't get the rebound.
Sure.
So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, the discipline of what is reasonable for me to go after, because he's got to understand, and he does, because you saw it in every Sweet 16 game, including the championship game. Bowling Green wanted nothing to do with the paint. They didn't, because they couldn't do anything in there anyway, and they knew it. Whether he blocked shots or not, he was there. But there were a couple times when he would go after in other games, he would just go after, like, balls have been thrown up like 20 feet there. He couldn't have blocked them, but they were going to be rebounded. And now he's not in a position to rebound. Is that something that you all talk to him about? Or is that something that, you know what, because look, I'm not a shot blocker, never have been. But I don't know how you pick and choose what you go after and what you don't. Because the things he went after, I mean, he's not only did he keep him in bounds and in you know, he didn't swat him out of bounds like, I'm going to spike this 3 rows out of bounds and get a highlight. No, I'm going to keep these in play. And I love that. But then also that one part where I'm like, okay, that's one he could have, stay right here, get the rebound, because there's no chance that's going in anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk to him, you know, about what to block and what not to block, just for the simple fact of you got to trust his instincts.
Gotcha.
You know, I think if we'd have told him not to block some things, probably would have let some things go that maybe he could have got. I understand what you're talking about, that, you know, sometimes it's tough, and he would block a couple that were obvious goaltends. He would look at us and be like, what? And I'm, you know, but, you know, at the same point when he probably got, you know, he got some both ways. He got some that, I know early in the Davies County game, he got called for a goaltending. There was no chance that was goaltending. Then later in the game, he didn't get called for one that I thought was an obvious goaltending. So I think he's just
both those.
He's just a tough guard, or excuse me, a tough whistle for the referees to figure out what's, you know, like the first one he blocked, he was over top of the rim, but the ball was still going up. But I think we just kind of let him go. And sometimes he didn't block shots that I thought he could easily get to. But, you know, again, he averaged about 4 blocks a game in his career, number 3 in the KHSAA all time. So we kind of let him do his thing, and, you know, probably would have had more. I told kids all the time, if you get beat off the drive, do not reach in. Just let him go deal with Malachi. Malachi will take care of business.
Malachi's got your back.
Yeah, your job needs to be to go try to block out Malachi's man that he's guarding, you know, when he goes. But no, we saw it so often, saw it since he was an 8th grader, you know, 6'7" when he joined us. He played off the bench for us as an 8th grader. So we've seen it. I've seen it all along. I had him when he was in 6th grade too. He had trouble making a layup in 6th grade. So he was very uncoordinated. You can imagine how tall he was trying to grow into that body at that age. So from 6th grade and 7th grade, his 7th grade year was the first year of Great Crossing. So I wasn't with him every day, but the strides he made between 6 and 8, just that coordination was unbelievable. And he just was so good at timing, and it was hard to tell him anything other than, you know, go take care of business around the rim for us.
Well, I got to run, but Corey, thank you for this. Coach, thank you. Congratulations. And
thank you.
To all of us that, and to you, Coach, my favorite thing about Malachi is just his heart. I mean, I've not seen a kid as sweet. And it's almost like I want him to be angry sometimes. I don't know how we're going to get that out of him. I mean, that killer instinct. I mean, he may have it on the court, but man, he just wants to put other people first. And I love seeing it.
So you guys know, obviously, you probably know Happy Osborne. So I talked to Happy a lot. And so we did a lot of drills where we played blue versus green. And Happy used to tell me, put him on a team where he cannot win, because you just want to try to piss him off for 2 months and make him as hungry as you possibly can before the end of the season. So we had some days where you would have seen him upset because I put him on a team he had no chance to win, and he had to get on the line and run a lot that day because his team was losing. But you're right, he's so tenderhearted, he's so good.
Never got mad at officials. Had plenty of opportunities and reasons to get mad at officials during Sweet 16, and all he would do is look over at you and smile and shake his head.
Yeah,
that was the most emotion I saw out of him. other than he just wanted to praise his teammates. He was amazing. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Well, thank you.
See you guys. Thank you for having me on, guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to monopolize the time I had, but thank y'all for giving me a chance. You have a great show.
Good to see you,
man. JD or Haskins, y'all got any other questions for Coach?
Hey, Steve, when did you start coaching high school basketball? Did you win a state championship like your first few years or what? I mean, you're setting the bar pretty high.
Yeah, so the school opened in 2019. So I was the first coach of Great Crossing. I was at Scott County Middle School like 10 out of 13 years. 2 years in there, I was Frankfort High School assistant. And then my son's senior year, I just took off and coached to watch him
That's
back
great.
in 13. So yeah, 6 years in, we've done
back
this.
Back-to-back Sweet 16s. Back-to-back Sweet 16s. That's awesome.
It's kind of incredible. This season was, it was fun, but also a grind because you knew how good your team was. And you knew that last year, I mean, you said it, Spencer County drew the best team in the state, but unfortunately we didn't win last year. So, it was a grind all season. Sometimes you didn't enjoy victories. You only won by 3 and you thought we should have won by 10, you know what I'm saying? That type of thing. And, even in our district finals, I had people come up to me and say, what happened last night? You only won by 15. And I told one of them, I said, tells you how far our program's come that, we won by 15 and people are asking, why did you only win by 15?
So. Coach, I got a great story with, when I ran into Malachi. He was at some random all-star game up here in Louisville. And so, we're getting him and he still hadn't committed at the time. So I asked him, he had narrowed his list down. I think it was down to 6. And he named off 4 schools and he couldn't remember the other 2. I was like, well, I guess they're out of it. But to see him on the big stage, like the McDonald's All-American game, and to not only see him out there, but he played really well out there. To see him on that stage against that talented of a group, I mean, what was it like for you as a coach who's been coaching him since he's in 7th grade?
Yeah, it was really cool. We were, I was able to fly up there myself on Monday and see the game. And they had a scrimmage early on Monday, and I guess he played pretty well. So, but for him to go, for him to play 4 games in 51 hours and then fly there and to be able to compete, like he did. And all-star games are really tough for big kids because they don't tend to get showcased very often, in those type of games. So, but I think he had 2 or 3 post-ups and then, like I said, made that, made the corner 3, but it's very cool. Like next week when I think that Hoop Summit's on NBC Sports. So it's going to be really cool to watch him, play on TV. And then next year when he's playing in Kentucky, whenever I can, our schedule, I'm hoping to get up there and watch him play as much as I can. But the coolest moment for me is to have a kid like him. And one of my friends snapped some pictures after the game, and like as soon as the buzzer came off, he went running straight for me. So that was, an honor, and also really cool that you had this kid for 5 years. He could have picked anybody else to go to to hug on that first one. And he came and found me, so that was really cool.
Anybody got any more questions for Coach?
Hey, Coach, he had a younger brother, right? It was pretty successful too.
Opposite. He has so he's the younger brother.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so Michael Moreno played at Eastern Kentucky. He was at Scott County. Played in the state tournament a couple of years, and then
older brother. What I meant. Yeah.
Left Eastern last year.
Eastern,
Yeah, probably could have played somewhere overseas, but decided to pursue a career and
I remember
for his brother's senior
name.
year.
I remember the last name.
Yeah, well, I had Michael actually back in my in middle school for 3 years, so that kind of helped build that relationship. And Scott County's an open enrollment system, so Malachi he lives in our district, but he could have went to Scott County if he wanted, but he wanted to kind of create his own legacy. And then I think BB in there didn't hurt that.
I know this is off subject, folks, but Thunder over Louisville is canceled next week. They canceled Thunder over Louisville already.
Oh, they're coming. Wow. You see the videos of Waterfront Park. I mean, it was halfway underwater yesterday. So
it's crazy, all this rain we've gotten.
I wasn't trying to throw off subject, but I just
I've got a gig.
That's kind of major.
I've got a gig on Thunder, so I don't know they haven't let me know anything yet, so that's interesting.
Thunder over Louisville's Facebook page put it out, JD.
Wow.
I just seen it.
That's crazy.
Coach, Yeah, you're more than welcome to stick around if you like, Coach, and talk Kentucky and basketball with us for a few more minutes if you like.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to.
All right, I'm going to go first, guys. Coach, it's kind of like a two-part question. What's your overall thought on the job that Mark Pope did his first year? And then two, how much of Kentucky basketball did you actually get to watch this year?
So number one, for what he had to do in putting that team together, basically from scratch. Travis Perry was the only kid, right? That really was already committed to Coach Cal. That stuck with it. So I mean, Kentucky fans, we all want to win national titles every single year. But he had some phenomenal wins, especially early in the season, to put those kids together. And you just wonder, if everybody stays healthy, where they actually end up. So I thought he did a tremendous job throughout the season. With adjustments he made and just the way he carried himself. And then I apologize. What was the second part?
How much of the Kentucky Wildcats basketball season did you actually get to watch this year? I know you was a busy man.
Yeah. I was able to get to 2 or 3 games, got to the Arkansas game, got to the Tennessee game in Rupp, and watched them when I could. Like Thursday, their last game of the season, I didn't see a single second of it because we were actually playing right at that same time at Rupp in the quarterfinals. But so I got to see a little bit. I love how they play. The style that they play. Probably need to make some. Again, I think people kind of adjusted to his style as the season went on, and they'll have to probably adjust to second, third, additional options as they go. But I think you kind of judge a coach as well as what it looks like out of timeouts, and he was really good out of timeouts all the time with executing. Kind of what they want to do, because it gives you that 2 minutes to, kind of break down and, kind of communicate to your kids without having to be on the fly of exactly what you're seeing. And when they came out of those timeouts, I thought he did a really good job of executing, getting them great shots. So, and then again, just I think Cameron talked about that practice that he was at when Jasper was there. I think that was the one visit I was on with Malachi, and just from the staff and everybody, man, they're such good people. That Coach Pope is the what he gives out, in his press conferences and things of that nature. That's the exact same thing anytime I've talked to him, he's been that exact same way. Coach Fager and was probably my biggest contact throughout. He's a great dude as well. So it's great to see genuine people. I remember the first time I said to Coach Pope, I said, "Man, that press conference was awesome. Isn't it great that people came for you?" And he's like, "They didn't come for me. They came for Kentucky basketball." So, I mean, and a lot of people aren't going to be like that. And my only comment to him was, I don't necessarily disagree if it would have been one of your teammates. I don't know if they would have hired, Scott Drew, that we'd had that many people. If they hired one of Mark Pope's teammates, I think it was just having that Kentucky person, back at the helm, because I was one that thought it was kind of time for Coach Cal to move on, and it's just time for somebody else. And I think that that Kentucky basketball, former player, just energized, everyone. I know it did me as a fan.
Right. So I'm gonna say something, and whoever wants to answer the question can, and then everybody else can follow kind of suit to it. Who exceeded expectations as far as play in your guys and your all's minds regarding Kentucky basketball this year? And who would you say underwhelmed this year? Whoever wants to start first can.
I say Otega was probably the one who exceeded expectations, because when he came, I thought he was going to be good. I didn't expect him to really to take over, especially after Jackson Robinson got hurt.
Yeah,
he was by far the most consistent player, game in and game out. So I think he's the one who overachieved and exceeded expectations. Underachieved, I can't say really that about anybody, because when it's a first year coach who just had to throw the roster together in a couple of weeks, the expectations can't be too high to begin with. So for them to make it to the Sweet 16 in year one under those circumstances, I can't really say anybody really underachieved on the team.
For me, the overachieved probably would have been Trent Noah.
Okay.
I knew he was, watching in high school, and then the day I was with Malachi, I watched him shoot threes, and I think he made whatever he took, almost made every single one of them. But he proved himself being able to defend a little bit, and making big shots, and you put him in the game. It didn't seem like Kentucky had a big drop off. So while Ortega is, I think, a good one as well, but I think he kind of exceeded expectations. I would say probably Jackson Robinson would have been the overwhelming person for me. And I know he, obviously had the injury, and I don't know exactly what his stats were in those high profile games, but it felt like in some of those games, he didn't kind of give us what I expected, of a kid that they thought maybe go pro and then came to Kentucky. Very good player, not saying that, but as far as I kind of felt like, and it was a media thing, but felt like it was kind of let in that he was going to be this special player, and he was good, but I don't think he ever gave Kentucky a special type of player throughout the season.
Yeah, I agree. Kendrick Ortega, man, he just I like, to be honest, I had no idea who he was coming out from Oklahoma. I didn't hear his name much.
Guilty as charged.
I follow his college basketball, but I'm like, who are these guys Pope's getting? Are they any good? And then, Pope invited me to a practice back in October. He reached out to me on my socials on my birthday, actually. And I'm a country artist, Steve. I don't know if you're familiar with my music or anything, but I he just was one to get people into the program that have kind of carried the torch and been big supporters. And I'm one of those guys. And I was very overwhelmed that he even asked me to be there. So we went up to Rupp that day. And from that point, from sitting in that practice, Colin Chandler blew my mind. And I was kind of shocked that he hadn't had he didn't really have the first half of the season. Well, he just, he basketball in 2 years. You got to think about that. But to see him succeed over the last 4 or 5 games that he played and step up, and that's what I saw that first practice. I know I heard some other radio guys say that Colin Chandler wasn't as good as they thought. And I'm thinking, man, if you saw the same guy I saw in October, this guy was schooling everybody at Rupp. The practice happened to be at Rupp the day I went, and not at Joe Kraft. And so just seeing him as quick as he was, could jump, could shoot. And then to see his season start out kind of slow, and he never really got his legs. And then the last couple tournaments, I'm like, wow, this is what I saw from the first time. So I'm really excited about seeing. Hopefully, he stays. I'm sure he will. But seeing what he'll in the next season, more confidence. I saw from day one. He impressed me. My dad went with me, and to see him succeed a little bit, kind of get his game back. I think he'll really help us next year.
He's one of the players I'm most excited about coming into next year because, like you said, JD, he really came out of his shell at the end of the season and got back to being because I'd seen plenty of video of him too, and I was like, this kid's going to be amazing. And then started out slow, and then I do think he lost a little bit of confidence at one point. But the thing that stood out to me about him is he didn't come in known as a defender, and he really, when he started getting his minutes, he started getting his minutes on the defensive end of the court. And so he got better defensively. And I think Jackson Robinson going out was probably the best thing for him because it gave him more time. He had to step up, and he got that confidence. He hit that logo 3 against Illinois in Milwaukee. And so, I was really excited to see him. I can't wait to see what he brings next year.
Well, he had a big 3 against Tennessee in the Sweet 16. I was at the game. I felt like the ball hit the Rafters, was so high up, and it just went right in the basket. And just seeing him, he like I said, his defense was great. And I'm really excited to see how he excels next year. I'm assuming he stays. But like I said, he really impressed me from day one.
What really impressed me the most about Ortega is how he hit the game winner against Oklahoma, not once but twice.
That's crazy.
That's got to be a good feeling for him,
right?
It's got to be a good feeling.
All right.
That's the best way to give a professional 30. If you guys pick what I'm throwing, you get what I'm saying. The only thing that kind of made me question his takes a lot on basketball as a player was those few games towards the end of the season where he just wasn't there. Like, I mean, at all. Like one game he had 4 points, something like that. One of them last few games. Like, what do you guys think? Do you feel like sometimes, and whoever wants to answer this can answer it first. Do you feel like sometimes it just becomes too much for players playing at a high caliber university like Kentucky?
I think some of it's just you move up on the chart on this when when they're analyzing the team. So, and so you become more of a priority for the defense. And so when you get them higher up on the scout chart, then the defense kind of rolls towards you a little differently. Plus, I mean, a lot of times when Ortega had bad games because he was in foul trouble. And so when he stayed out of foul trouble, he was pretty good.
He's got a very awkward shot. I mean, it will go
Yeah.
in most of the time, but when he shoots, it's just really weird
Got
shot.
a hitch in it.
It does.
How do you fix that, Coach?
Yeah, I don't think you do yet. I mean, look at remember Wayne Turner. Remember Wayne Turner?
You sound like Bill Cartwright.
I'm always like, if you're making shots at a high clip, we don't need to fix anything. A lot of people do things differently. No, but it's tough. It is tough to fix shots, especially, you got to have the kids buy it more than anything. They think it needs to be fixed.
All right, I got a few more things, folks, before we end this great conversation today, talking about Kentucky and more. Just questions for you, Coach. What do you think is the biggest thing that a coach has to do in building a program?
I think first you got to build your culture, the type of people you want in your program. And, we all want great basketball players. But, at the same time, I've had plenty of really good basketball players who didn't want to, follow the culture of the program. And we were better off, without them, because sometimes addition by subtraction. So I think that's the number one thing, how do you want people to be, on the court, off the court, the type of person that, that you want, and then obviously after that, then I think you got to go to your style of play. What kids are going to, fit well with your style of play. So here you need to make sure you got, 4 to 4.5 kids on the court at all time that can shoot three, because that's going to open up, everything else for you. So to me, that would probably be the second, the second thing. And in the world we live in, I can't imagine. I don't know how they do it. I mean, you're starting over, basically every single year now with the transfer portal. It's crazy how you do it. And the culture is probably in today's day and age, probably the toughest thing to fit in. And I know I've seen some things recently on, kids they haven't gotten, and you wonder, did they not fit into their culture and they aren't willing to spend the amount, I don't know if they have a chart over there, but it says, I'm willing to spend this if that person really fits into our culture, but I'm not going to fit. We're not going to spend as much on this guy if they don't fit into our culture. So, us fans always get upset when they miss on kids, but, sometimes it, may be their plan that if we don't get this kid at X, we're not willing to do it.
Growing up in Taylorsville, Scott County was good all those years. I mean, from early '90s, and Rick Jones in '98 when they won the state title, and and now Great Crossing. How far is Scott County High School from Great Crossing High School? Is it
1.5 miles? So they just built a new Scott County this year. This was their first year of a new Scott County High School.
Yeah.
They moved maybe 1 mile closer, so it was 2.5 miles. Now it's like 1.5 miles.
So, like, growing up, Scott County was we could not beat Scott County. They beat us in the region in 98 or 99. I mean, just by like 40 points. I mean, it was just insane. How tough has it been to like separate yourself from the history and Scott County to this new Great Crossing school that just started, just won a state championship in the first few years of the school? Yeah, I'm sure you still hear about how the Scott County with Cardinals could beat Great Crossing back in the day any day. I'm sure there's all sorts of crosstown rivalry stuff. But growing up in Taylorsville, man, Scott County was like the Chicago Bulls, man. No one could ever beat them. So is Great Crossing getting all the athletes? Is Scott County still pretty good, or?
Scott County's been down the last couple of years. The first year they were they ended up in the COVID year. They actually won the region, but obviously didn't get to play. Had an average season and just got hot at the right time.
Sure.
And then since then, it's in like the last couple of years they haven't been very good. It'll probably work its way out soon enough. You don't get groups, whether you're talking at Scott County or anywhere like we've had. I mean, as good as Malachi is, we've got another D1 signee on our group. We've got a sophomore that'll play D1 somewhere as well, and then a couple other kids that could play cause level somewhere. So you just don't have it come along like that. But it'll eventually level out. I think it's going to take Scott County a few years, but you're right. I mean, I moved here in '77, so I know exactly what you're exactly what you're talking about. We used to be in the 8th region. There was Spencer County.
Yep. Hell yeah.
And everybody, and every year was either Scott, Shelby, or Oldham. Seemed like I think it was a 20-year period, the 3 teams won every region between those 3. And obviously they went to 11, and then Coach Hicks, who came, kind of put us to another level. We were good before him, but he kind of put Scott County, to another level. And there are a lot of people in this community that won't support us because they went to Scott County, and that's just how they are. And I always laugh and say, well, you didn't have a choice. Up until 2019, you didn't have a choice. You had to come to, you had to come. But then at the same point, since we won the state, I have seen a lot of, diehard Scott County folks,
it's the same.
Happy for us.
It's the same with Shelby County Collins. When I was in school, Shelby County was tough. That you can hardly, they're tough to beat. Well, then Collins came along, and a lot of the better athletes went to Collins High School, and Scott County's, just wasn't as tough as when I was in school. So, same thing when these, I think Spencer County needs 2 high schools. I mean, it's just, they're busting at the seams down there now. My dad was a coach, and Dad was a principal and athletic director, so I've kind of grown up in the education and sports business, and I got into college and found a guitar and kind of took a completely different path. So it's kind of crazy, but I've always been a huge high school sport fan, and I remember the Scott County days. So, man, congrats on the state championship and Malachi's success.
Thank you.
You'll be remembered a long time for the success he's had and all his career through UK. So I know you're proud. So really excited.
Absolutely. That's the one thing I told our kids, last week is you'll always be a state champion the rest of your life. Always. So they can't take that away from you. Next year will be the defending state champions, but you have reunions for state championship teams and things of that nature. So those kids will always be connected. And the one thing you all talked about how Malachi as a kid, the one thing how great he is. The one thing I like is pretty much every game he went to this year, he had 1 or 2 of his teammates fighting by his side. So just his love for his team. They understand they understand who our best player is. There was no animosity with any of our kids. He wasn't even our leading scorer in our program until this year, and he didn't finish as our all-time leading scorer. Vince Dawson, who's going Moorhead, did. So, but they still understood that Malachi was the one that kind of drove the ship without us having to have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Everybody understood, and he didn't. He never took advantage of that and acted like he was better than the next guy.
Kendrick, you got anything for Coach?
I'm good. I said, congratulations. I said, I'm up here in Louisville, so I didn't get to see you all too many times. Saw you in the King of the Bluegrass, and I said I ran into Malachi at that random All-Star game that was played up here last summer. But whenever I've had the pleasure of talking to him, he's always been a great kid. And
absolutely,
congratulations, and can't wait
thank
to see what he does in college.
Yep. Well, guys, thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Same here, man. Congrats on everything.
Take care, Coach.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate you having me on.
I got one more question for you, JD and Kendrick. How big and how important is it for programs like Kentucky and Louisville to have guys like Kelsey and Pope in the aspects of revitalizing the rivalry between Louisville and Kentucky? Because let's be honest, there hasn't been one, and I couldn't tell you how long. Whoever wants to go first in their response to that can.
Well, somebody's like in between it. Rivalry is always the rivalry. Even if one of them's winning every time, the other one's still going to talk some trash. And when the one is winning all the time, they're going to talk trash the whole time. So the rivalry is never going anywhere. And so the funny thing is how many fans on the other side like the other team's coach. I see so many Kentucky fans saying they like Kelsey. I see so many Louisville fans saying they like Pope
Yeah.
and all that stuff because they're just great guys. They're very similar in their approach, and they're just great guys to be around. I mean, Pope, he's just funny. I mean, I'm quick story. We was up in Milwaukee after they won the Illinois game, and so I had
Where
to.
they treat media great.
Yeah, I don't even get into all that.
I saw that on Twitter. I want to hear more about
Yeah. The NCAA can kick rock right now. But they so we had to shoot I had to shoot stuff for the morning shows and put stuff for them to run the next day because we're going to be on the road. So I'm standing there and there's a March Madness background behind me. So I was like, okay, that's perfect. Well, coach comes out as I'm shooting these stand-ups. He comes out and he comes up, gives me a fist bump, and, and the whole family's with him. And like he that's just him. And,
Yeah.
like the players were the same way. I had because that was when Kobe Bryant went off in that game. And I was like, he was walking by. I was like, yeah, Kobe, I'm about to start talking about you on camera. He's like, I hope you say something good. I was like, well, you wrote it for me. So, so they are a great group. And I think, like I said, the rivalry is always going to be the rivalry. Something just no matter who's winning and losing, it's always going to be the rivalry.
Yeah, I agree with Kendrick. I'm a huge Kentucky fan, and I gotta kind of play both ends of the spectrum because I'm a country artist, number one. And so, if I tick off Louisville fans because I'm talking too much smack, they'll either stop buying my records or stop supporting me. I mean, some people are cool either way, but there are a few people say I'll never support him because he's a Kentucky fan, and I'm fine with that, But I will say if Louisville were to beat Kentucky next year randomly at Yum, we would never hear the end of it. All my buddies are just are think it's going to happen. They've been talking smack. Oh, you barely beat us in December, and we were injured, and blah blah blah. So, I mean, the rivalry is definitely back. I mean, the Kenny Payne years, we were kind of guaranteed to win every time. But with Kelsey and Pope at the helm, I think I find that myself that more Louisville fans really like Pope more than Cal. So that's kind of it seemed like it's
Vice versa.
evened out, and it's like it's kind of and it's same with Kelsey as well, But I've never met Kelsey, but I mean he's definitely revived the program to what it has been. But I was really shocked that Kenny Payne didn't win more games. But you're only as good as your players. So I'm anxious to see how both teams excel. I know right now if I get on Twitter right now.